Mauvais is now like £8.5 million turnover company. You've done it at such a young age, 28 years old. Tell us about how you started.
Well, I've always been into business. So as a kid, I was the guy who was kind of selling sweets in school. Growing up, I was hearing about sites and e-commerce. So by the age of like 10, my mum was buying me Duncan Bannatyne books, Philip Green. I was flipping Doctor Who cards. You could buy a box for like 30 or 40 quid and selling for like 15 quid each. The NBA guy called Damian Lillard, and he's meant to be one of the top NBA guys. He literally just wore it walking out for one of the games. I had no idea he was a customer. I didn't know who he was. Our online store started to do quite well. In like November, like £1.5 million, but then January it's really small. It's like a couple $100,000. Kind of in the summer months we do just over £1 million a month.
Wow. What's the most challenging decision that you've ever had to make in business? Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the GVE London Podcast, and today we're thrilled to have one of our clients, Jordan Jones, who owns Mauvais. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Anthony, I'm going to let you give a little intro about how you met Jordan.
I think you originally, so Jordan's my client, we sold him a car. You originally inquired, I think, via social media, Instagram.
Yeah.
And James, who does all the social media inquiries, sent it that morning. We got in contact. I think we spoke for a couple of days. You came in on a Saturday morning. You saw the car. It was a G63 with a full urban kit on it. Beautiful car. And to be fair to you, you looked around it and pulled the trigger fairly quickly. I think we've done a deal, not that day, but fairly soon after.
Pretty quick,
pretty quick. So fair play to you. Lovely car. Really nice car.
Yeah, it's nice. I was saying the reason how I found out about GVE was I was toying between a G63 or a Urus, and I think one of the YouTubes was, I think you were asking everyone which would they prefer.
Yeah, I think that's this man down there.
That's what got me to look at all the cars, and I thought, I'll come and have a look, and because I actually asked you, didn't I? Could you get both?
We had a Urus with a Nero body kit, I think, at the time, which obviously Urban and Nero are pretty much the same company. So you came in and you had a look at both. I do remember that.
Well, there you go. YouTube works.
Actually, what would be really interesting is we asked everyone what they choose and why they chose it. So why did you go for the G63?
The road presence. With my brand, we always rent G63s for shoots. So I've been in and around that car for a while. And for me, it's just, I think, the best to look at. Stands out. The Urus is nice, but I think I've seen lots drive down the road, and I just don't think they stand out. So it had to be the G63.
Well, look, Mauvais is now like a £8.5 million turnover company. You've done it at such a young age, 28 years old, right?
Yeah.
I think 60% of your turnovers in the US, and 20% in the UK or something like that. Am I right?
Close, yeah. It's changing at the minute, but it's about 60% US.
Yeah.
40% UK.
Okay, 40% UK. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So that is a pretty sizable company at the moment.
Yeah.
So tell us about how you started.
Yeah. So Mauvais is like the second brand I've started. So in my journey, I started fashion when I was 17.
17 years old.
Yeah. So I've always been into business. So as a kid, I was the guy who was kind of selling sweets in school. It's kind of a typical story.
Yeah.
And then my mum was always in marketing, doing Ecom, but in kind of back in the Ecom boom.
Okay.
So as I was growing up, I was always like hearing about kind of websites and e-commerce. So I feel like it was kind of ingrained in me from a young age. So by the age of like 10, my mum was buying me like Duncan Bannatyne books, Philip Green.
You were not reading Duncan Bannatyne?
I was reading all the books. 10. I was reading Alan Sugar books about 10 years old. I then my mum used to buy me coding books as well, so like HTML, CSS. So I was learning how to do that from a young age.
At what age?
I was about 10. And then I remember there was like a How to Get Rich Quick on eBay book I got bought. So I was flipping like Doctor Who cards. I'd go to the shop. I worked out you could buy a box for like 30 or 40 quid. You get loads of packs, and you get like a super rare. You get like in a whole box, you'd get like, let's say you got 10 super rare cards. I used to flip them on eBay and sell them for like 15 quid each.
Wow. You know who does a lot of that on socials at the moment is Gary Vee.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
And you know, initially I thought, oh, what the hell is he doing? He's just going around buying these like
Pokemon cards.
Pokemon cards and baseball cards as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, you don't understand how much some of those
Yeah,
go
it's
for, like
crazy.
$1 million for one
It's
card
mad.
or something like
It's
that.
actually crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing he didn't go to that level with the
No,
cards,
not
right?
quite. I think the reason why I done that is that I remember it was about 2006. So I might have been younger. Yeah, 10 years old. Because I think the PS3 was coming out. And my mum and dad wouldn't buy me it. Because at the time it was quite expensive, like 600 quid if you want to get a few games and stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, look, you're going to have to pay for it yourself. But I was getting 20 quid a month pocket money from my mum and dad. So obviously that'd take a long time to save up.
Sitting there calculating.
Yeah, so I started flipping these cards online to be able to buy one. So
Did you?
yeah, I bought one. I actually bought one. I had money left over. I bought like a Nintendo Wii as well. I mean, it shows how young I was because I don't play those games anymore.
And that was at 10 years old?
Yeah, about 10 years old.
Pretty cool.
So I went from there. Still always been into business. And then actually I remember like my mum, like forcing my mum to buy me like a domain subscription and web hosting at literally like 13, 14 as well. I never actually ended up launching a website, but I was always wanted to do something, create stuff.
Where do you think that came from?
I really don't know. I think on my mum's side of the family, they're all quite creative. So my mum was always very good at marketing. She used to draw lots of paintings as well. My auntie drew paintings. My grandma did. And then
It was just as a hobby, or they were selling them?
just as a hobby, but my grandma used to sell paintings. And then on the flip side, my granddad, so my mum's dad, back in the 90s, he had a big consultancy business. So he was kind of like me, and I think he grew his staff to about 100 people. Had offices in New York and Mayfair. Obviously, we didn't see any of that because he ended up losing it all in the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened?
I think the problem with consultancies is that obviously it's an extension of your business. So when there's ever a crisis and people are tightening their purse a bit,
Yeah.
the consultancy is always the first person
First
to go.
thing to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's almost like a luxury, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's an easy cost. Obviously, with employees, you need to go through a certain process.
Yeah.
So I think as time went on, and also as the years went on as well, things changed. So I think back in the 90s, there might have been a need for a service that maybe as you start to go into 2000, it wasn't as important, just as technology started to advance. So I almost think I had kind of the best of both worlds, where clearly my granddad was very business orientated. So again, when I was a kid, although he lived in New York when I was growing up, the times I did spend talking to him, he'd be showing me Forbes articles and just business stuff. So I was just always around it.
So then from school and flipping cards, what did you go into next?
Yeah, so I kind of done school, and then at 17, that's when I really thought I want to actually try and build a proper business. I say proper, it wasn't. But
Were you doing your A levels or anything like that?
I was actually in college. I was literally just doing a BTEC in sport, so
Yeah.
nothing special. But yeah, I just wanted to start a brand up. I had no idea how to get into fashion in terms of where do you find factories. Didn't even know how to market really. I knew that at the time Instagram was a thing. So it was 2014. So it was just as Instagram was kind of kicking off. Saw other people doing it. Like there was other brands I saw that seemed to be killing it.
Well, you're saying sportswear,
Yeah.
and so the thing that comes to mind automatically is Gymshark.
Yeah,
right?
so it was inspired by like brands like Gymshark, and I remember seeing like the founders flexing on Instagram with like R8s, things like that, and I thought I want a bit of that. So to be fair, I probably got inspired by them, created a brand probably a bit too similar to them as well.
It's a little bit funny though, saying that one of them, I think I follow one of them, and the richer he's got, the less he flexes.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No, but it's interesting you say that. I realise that even with our clients, the richer they are, the less they show off with it.
All like plain branding and no like big
don't shout about what they're wearing or what they're doing.
Like that,
Got inspired by other brands that were just starting to kind of blow up on Instagram. Obviously, it's a great platform. Literally bought blank t-shirts and printed on the t-shirts for a while. Launched in 2014. I think I had one order that first night, and it was my dad. And I remember, like, with Shopify, you can obviously you can get towards the start, you get notifications.
That is pretty sweet though.
Yeah, and I thought
that's good. At least you got quick delivery, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was at his house already. But I remember because I wanted to celebrate. I think I went out that night. So I went out with the boys to celebrate the launch of the brand. Had Shopify on my phone. I saw the order come through. I was like buzzing, and then I click it, and then it's my dad. But then orders started to trickle in. Nothing. Honestly, the first month, I think I did about 400 quid. The first year, I'd done $8,000. It was tiny, but at the time, even that small amount, $8,000, it felt like there was still some demand. So
what did you do to drive traffic to get those orders in the first place? So it's not like you just open up a website and just let it grow. You must have done something, right?
Yeah. So Instagram was so different back then. Obviously, even with like the way they show content, if you post first, you'd be seen first. So the original way I used to do it was I had no marketing budget, so I'd go onto Instagram. I'd follow like loads of people who I think would be into like fitness. They'd follow back because that's what would happen back then, and people would comment and things like that. So organically, I built a following of a few thousand before I launched. So then I posted, and then it was just the organic reach really that got the sales.
You didn't pay for any adverts?
What's that, sorry?
You didn't pay for any adverts?
Nothing. Back in 2014, I didn't know it existed really. Obviously, nowadays there's so much content around paid ads and how you can kind of explode your business. But back then there wasn't. It was kind of everyone was starting out and didn't realise. And it's also like at the time when everyone was doing influencers, and that's what really got the reach. Everyone was talking about that, not about...
Instagram was a different place back then, isn't it? It was no algorithms probably, I don't think, or it wasn't as strong as it is now. And
definitely not as strong.
Yeah.
But one thing that you touched upon there was influencers, right? And how big Gymshark became off the back of that, which was just handing out influencers free gym gear, right? Yeah. And all these personal fitness influencers, give them a shitload of gear, not that kind of gear, clothes, but then I've seen that work for like so many other brands, and even till today, I remember watching a podcast about there's these ice baths. There's this ice bath company in the US, and it's worth like $1 billion now. That crazy money, and it all started off with them giving, like Huberman, that the influencer Huberman. I forget his first name, but they gave him a free ice bath, and then they went to all these like massive influencers, gave them free ice baths, and just off the back of that, it just turned into an avalanche of orders, man.
I think they say like word of mouth is probably the most powerful marketing tool, but then you step it up again a level when you go into social media. Yeah, really. People follow these influencers because they almost get inspired by them.
Right, yeah.
And then they see, okay, what are they doing? Oh, wow, they've just bought that ice bath. They just bought that bit of clothing. Yeah. I want to now go and buy that.
That's it.
So
it's crazy how people can get influenced like me, right? Yeah. With my diet and everything like that.
Did you order the ice bath?
No, I'm not. I didn't get the ice bath yet, but
you get influenced, and then you influence us with your diet as well.
So I've got this thing upstairs where we've got a little kitchen. I used to work in
full of beef and eggs at the moment.
Well, I used to work in an accountancy firm where the sandwiches were stale pretty much every single day, and that's all they had, like bread and jacket potato and beans and stuff, right? So I was like, when I start my own thing, whenever I do, I'm gonna have my own kitchen. I'm gonna be able to make my own food, right? And then suddenly off TikTok, I've learned that maybe eating steak every day might be a good idea, and eating eggs every day. So that's kind of why.
So now we buy £10 butter and £50 eggs, and
then these guys start copying me. I don't know what's your problem, right?
Nice.
But yeah, no, go ahead. So where we were was that influencers, but you didn't have, I'm guessing you didn't have the money at this point to be using influencers.
No.
But you got quite a big influencer, I think, later on when you started Mauvais.
Yeah,
you got
definitely.
You got quite a few big ones.
Yeah, these days we they're customers. They're like the likes of Jamie Foxx, Jake Paul.
They're your customers.
Yeah, NBA players as well. NFL. They buy it, and there's even a NBA guy called Damian Lillard, and he's meant to be one of the top NBA guys. He literally just wore it walking out for one of the games. I had no idea he was custom. I didn't know who he was.
No way. That's insane.
And then someone tagged me or sent it to me and said, "Is this your stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then when I done research, he was like, I think he's one of the all-time top scorers in the NBA.
Do you find a direct impact on your business when someone goes out and gets seen wearing your clothing?
Not too much. I think because our stuff is quite unbranded, I think sometimes people don't know where it's from. And I think the landscape of influencers has definitely changed over time. Back in 2014, 15, 16, people would literally buy anything they'd see. Whereas now people are a lot more suspicious of people getting paid, because obviously it was the times when every reality star was every day posting different products. I think over time people started to get desensitized to it. Yeah. And then just like
promotional posts.
Yeah, it's promotional posts. I'm not going to look at it. Obviously, with some products like the ice bath, and when it's really different and captures attention, it works. But for clothing and stuff, it can be quite tricky. I think now.
Look,
more
I think
expensive.
if a influencer is genuine, he knows that he'll get caught out quite quickly if he's promoting something that he doesn't actually give a crap about.
Yeah.
Or and would never wear. Ever, right?
Exactly.
Or never get into an ice bath or something like that. Whereas these guys, like with the ice bath example, they were literally, without the company having to ask them, taking a video every single morning showing that they were waking up at 5 o'clock and doing the ice bath every single morning.
Really?
And then just imagine the compound effect of 20 influencers with 1 million followers each doing all the same thing. It's just
that's when it can work quite well.
Easy formula.
I think it's really good when there is something like an ice bath though, and it's expensive. Yeah. So the influencers it's worth it for them.
Yes.
So then maybe they've got a reduced rate, or they do it in return for the free ice bath. Whereas with clothing, influencers now know their values. They charge a lot of money, and the return of investment isn't great. So we find that doing finding really good content creators where we can use their content and amplify it through paid advertising. Yeah, that's where now the way you can grow.
The way that you can grow. Well, let's go back to the sportswear. So then, did that business get sold, or did it not work out in the end?
So I've done that for about a year, doing the print on t-shirts. Then as I was doing that, I was learning about factories and sourcing.
Was that in China?
At the time, the first ever collection I done was actually in Bangladesh. I would never do that again.
Why is that? Because I do see if I ever buy some stuff from Zara or something like that, it does say Bangladesh on the back.
Yeah, so for a brand like Zara, it'd be great because they've got huge quantities and they've got the best factories in Bangladesh. When you're
really?
Yeah, they'll have the best of the best out in Bangladesh or anywhere really, because they've got.
Why is that?
Because they've got purchasing power. They might order 10,000 of a style, 20,000, 50,000. Whereas with a brand starting out, you want to order 100 because you can't afford anymore. So the only people who will work with you are the kind of bottom of the barrel factories who just have not got no quality control. The fabrics are crap. So you tend to get absolute shit back.
It's interesting. I always thought that these factories would have worked on like a contract basis. So you're saying Zara would own these factories?
They will own some, but they'll also have partnerships with the factories. But you get to a point where you're doing so many units in one of the factories, you almost own their production, although you don't own the factory.
So if you were to pull the plug, that factory will probably die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they then have the power where they can demand what they want. But yeah, going back to this, kind of the start. So
you're finding different factories, but you said that Bangladesh.
Yeah, we had stuff that turned up different to what I asked for when it arrived. But in hindsight as well, it's partly my fault because when you're first starting out, you don't know kind of the questions to ask to get what you want. So I ended up not kind of doing my own due diligence and ended up with the wrong stuff because I wasn't able to kind of ask the right questions.
But how did you even go about finding factories like that? But did you have to fly out there and find it, or was it all over the net?
All over the net. So initially, it was like the likes of Alibaba and just finding suppliers where I could speak to them and ask questions. I must have sounded like such an idiot when I first started, because the stuff I was asking was just so irrelevant to what I needed. So yeah, it was Alibaba was good for starting out, but you tend to find the good factories don't want to be on there.
They don't.
So obviously, as you grow, then you get people reaching out to you. There's trade shows you can go to.
Got it.
You can fly out to Turkey and China and find people there.
Yeah.
But at the start, it's very difficult. It's almost like a secret that no one wants to tell, because, you know, people keep their cards quite close to their chest, and it's almost just trying to find that first opening to find out how to find a factory can be quite daunting to start with.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have any kind of previous knowledge. So I launched a collection. It was starting to look more like a brand rather than just a t-shirt.
What was the brand called?
It's so embarrassing. I don't want to say.
Go on, you got to say it. No, you have to say it.
I can't say it. It's too embarrassing to me.
Come on.
I'm sure if our store, I want to Google it now.
You have to Google it. Go and Google it.
There's gonna be all these people that bought that brand, and they're gonna be sat. Just say it. Say it.
Probably.
I'm still wearing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was 17. It wasn't the best name. It was a bit of a copy of Gymshark. But yeah, it wasn't the best. But after a couple of years, ASOS reached out to me because they wanted to bring on an independent fitness brand onto ASOS. They could never do it previously because I think they had some kind of trademark issue with a similar brand in Spain. So all they had, when they had the likes of Nike and Adidas, they could only style it as casual wear, not as sportswear. So when they finally opened their sportswear business, they wanted one independent brand to sit alongside the big boys to kind of give a bit of point of difference. Luckily, because at the time, my clothing was a little bit different to all the other fitness brands. There was cool prints, and it was almost more fashion than actual sportswear at that point. So I got the break with ASOS. They put an order in. I think it was like 30 grand, and that was I think I was 19 at the time when I first started working with ASOS, and kind of that bankrolled the business in a way. Although I had to find funding to pay for the stock to go onto ASOS. It was a good start.
It's probably easy to get funding when you can show them that you've already got an order.
Worth of orders,
it's easy to. The problem is that you've got with ASOS you've normally got 30, 60 or 90 day payment terms. So it's normally really easy to go to the bank and get invoice factoring. So you can, at the point of them receiving the products, you can get the money paid to you rather than waiting for ASOS's payment terms. The issue is for a brand of my size at that time is actually the bit before that. How do I actually go and make the stuff? Because I don't have any cash to make 30 grand's worth of product. So then I had to go and do some shopping and find a company that would do purchase order finance, where actually they'd give me the money up front to pay the factories, because obviously there's a bit more of a risk there. But I managed to do that. And then I think I was doing about 3 or 4 collections a year, getting lots of support from ASOS at that point as well. Wow. So even at the kind of biggest year that I'd done with that first brand, it was only about 250 grand.
Okay. On something like 250 grand, what does a small business like that make as profit?
0.
Really?
I didn't make a profit. It was pretty much break even the whole way through.
Wow.
And why is that? Because of marketing costs or production costs? Or
so towards the end of the business, when I started to work with the likes at ASOS, I was trying to grow the business. I was doing trade shows, a bit like other fitness brands. I went to Body Power and stuff like that. It was costing me. I don't know if you know. Have you ever heard of Body Power? It was a big fitness event. So that cost like 30 or 40 grand every time I'd done it every year. So that was a big old chunk of the 250.
40 grand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just one show.
One show is a 3-day event.
And the booth is probably the size of this area that we're sitting in or something.
I think it was a 9x3 square foot or something like, or meters.
That's crazy.
So when I look back on, I should have really have made a profit, but the thing is I didn't have an understanding of margin. I didn't understand other associated costs. I didn't even have a bookkeeper or anything like that. I think looking back now, the one bit of advice I'd give everyone is you need to understand the numbers from day one. So go and pay a bookkeeper to do a few hours a week. Just get your accounts into good position. I think for 4 or 5 years, I was literally like chucking things into Excel myself and trying to work it out, whereas actually a bookkeeper could chuck it all into an accounting software, and you know, having management accounts every month is kind of key really. But I didn't have that. I was kind of working out of my small bedroom upstairs in my parents' house, not running it as a proper business really.
And so then what happened to this business? Seemingly it seems like you're doing well at this point, right? Even though you're breaking even, still ASOS are...
Yeah, so it was... I think I could see the opportunity there. Obviously ASOS, it was selling really well on ASOS. Still at that point, I wasn't actually doing any paid advertising as well. So for the first 5 years of that business, it was all organic. So actually, I don't know how I didn't make a profit, because it was not a lot of cost.
Was it quite expensive for the funding?
Yeah, well, that's it as well. So obviously ASOS do your margin, because you've got to do it as a wholesale cost. Plus they want a discount. Plus I was paying like 6 or 7% on each part of the finance and stuff like that. So it ended up being quite an expensive thing where, on top of that, if I got a 30 grand order, if it cost me 15 or 20 grand to make it, so that with that 10 grand left over, I'd buy stock with it instead of just putting it into the bank.
You'd always reinvesting constantly.
Yeah, so I was reinvesting it onto the online website. The problem is it wasn't selling at the rate I wanted it to, so I'd always have leftovers and stuff like that. And that's, then the discounting came, and that's where then you stop making any money really. But then the fortune changed for better or worse. In 2018, there was a few stories online that affected ASOS in terms of like brand names that could be seen as offensive. So they basically reviewed all their brand names on ASOS, and the brand I had was a part of that. And they said, look, we can't continue stocking the brand. And obviously with ASOS being my number one revenue stream, without ASOS I'd have gone out of business. But luckily they kind of saw like promise in me and thought, as an entrepreneur I could do good things. So they actually supported me to set Mauvais up. So they said, we can't buy this brand, but why don't you start another brand?
That's so cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You don't expect big businesses to do that.
So I'm guessing you were working quite closely with them, like constantly.
Yeah. So I was working really closely with the buyers. And so that happened in February 2018 when I got the news about the brands. So then I literally, I think the next day I bought a whiteboard and started writing down brand names and things like that. Ended up coming up with like 20 names, and then kind of handed them all over to ASOS and was like, which one do you like? And then they said straight away Mauvais. So
why Mauvais? I'm guessing there's a French influence there.
It means the word bad in French.
Yeah.
I quite like the idea of it because obviously people use the word bad as slang for like cool, and to be honest, I learned everything from the first business with the brand name that very much pigeonholed the brand into only fitness and only one type of person. And I knew that with another brand, I wanted one word that could stand on its own, could look quite premium, wouldn't look out of place if it was sat next to Gucci or some of the big names in terms of how the name looked. So I was just really careful that the name would almost be timeless. It wouldn't be seen in any way. Like it's just a name that looks nice.
Yeah. And so what kind of market did you intend to target? It's like obviously there's fast fashion, which is your ASOS kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And then there's
so I took the opportunity. So I took the opportunity from moving away from fitness is to be able to start a whole new thing. At the time as well, 2018, I weren't into fitness in the way I was when I was 17, and I always wanted to go into just fashion. But at the time in 2018, there was a lot of brands, Instagram brands, that were just doing kind of prints on like logos on t-shirts or logos on the kind of the chest, and it all looked the same. So I saw a gap in the market for more smarter products that was maybe going out products like smart trousers, maybe a smart polo. So the idea was meant to be affordable product, but it still looked luxury. So I felt like there was a nice middle point. I think a lot of guys these days, a bit like women who like to spend money on handbags, but maybe the rest of the outfit is a bit more affordable. Not that many people can go into Louis Vuitton and spend $2,000 on an outfit and only wear it a couple of times. So the idea was I wanted to create an outfit that gave that luxury designer look, but actually was affordable to the normal person.
Who do all the design work? Is that all from you?
I done all the design work up until 2021, where then I started to hire designers and stuff like that. But there's still a lot of like my original designs that have kind of been adapted that still sell today, and even some of the original designs that I'd done back in 2019 are still some of our core bestsellers. So,
because I think looking at your product range, it's definitely got a signature look to it. So even though you're saying that, when other people see your clothing because it's so plain, you could tell that it's Mauvais, if you know what I mean. There is definitely a signature design to it that you could sort of tell that is a Mauvais shirt or Mauvais trousers.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
There is definitely like a uniform going on there, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
What's really interesting over here is that you stepped out from, like you were saying, you were doing sport, BTEC, and went to sportswear. But now all of a sudden you're now designing your own clothing. Now I don't understand how people can start designing their own clothes and how they do it, but I can imagine that's quite a massive task to go out and start learning the ropes. How do you use these graphic design and softwares? How do you start? What the expectations from these big brands or these big buyers who want to be buying these brands off you? I mean, how did you learn that?
I learned it as I went along. I was doing all the kind of CADs using Adobe Illustrator with the first brand. So doing technical specs for factories, size specs. So I was doing all of that already. It probably took a couple of years, the first brand, to really start to understand how things work. And I was just learning as I went along, make mistakes. Maybe a factory would send me like a technical spec and I'd kind of look at it and be like, oh, that's how you do it. Use YouTube and find out how to use Illustrator. So it was very much learned as I went along. But I felt then when I started Mauvais, I took everything I learned from the first business and was able to apply it straight away. But yeah, it was kind of work in progress for a number of years.
So ASOS basically helped you, in a sense, launch it, right?
Yeah.
And then was that it? You hit the ground running as soon as you launched Mauvais. ASOS was stocking it. Lots of sales were being made. Is that how it went?
Yes and no. I think we done £500,000 in the first year, and that was split between about 50% ASOS. Within 10 days of launching, Footasylum got in contact, so we launched into Footasylum. We were at the time, don't know if you remember, back in 2018, 2019, like check trousers were like massive. Everyone was wearing skinny check trousers, and like we were one of the first brands on ASOS to sell a check trouser that was like had a bit of stretching rather than actually being a suit pant. And we were the first brand in Footasylum to do that as well. And at the time, we were one of the best. We had one of the best selling products in quite a few of the Footasylum stores up and down the country. Wow. So those orders really helped. And then at that point, I started to understand a bit more about paid advertising, and our online store started to do quite well. I mean, I say well, I think we done month one, $8,000 online. Then we done, I think, $30,000 the next month, and then $30,000 the next month. So it was starting to build up quite quickly. And
what is it on now, your online store?
It varies. We're hoping to grow 35% this year. Don't know if we will. February that's just gone, we grew 45% year on year. Wow. Tracking about 60% at the minute year on year for the first few days of March.
Wow.
So
but what does that equate to, like roughly in terms of monetary value?
So
for a month,
it can go. So it can go from like November, like $1.5 million, but then in like January it's really small. It's like a couple $100,000 because everyone sends everything back.
Okay.
And then kind of in the summer months we do just over £1 million a month.
Wow.
Just
on your website?
Just on our website.
That's amazing, man.
And are you now predominantly just on the website? Do you still use ASOS and Footasylum?
No, we don't. So in 2020, we stopped working with any retailer.
Really? Why was that?
So ASOS placed an order, and then because of COVID, there was then everyone was worried about what's going to go on. So lots of people cancelled orders. Although in the end, e-commerce ended up having a massive boom. The likes of ASOS cancelled orders because they didn't want to take the risk. Stores.
Did that leave you with like shitload of
Yeah,
stock?
so we ended up being left with loads of stock. And we actually designed a range that was more towards the ASOS customer because
Oh wow.
the ASOS customer is a bit more kind of trendy, like Camden type guy. So we designed a whole collection based around that type of customer. Wouldn't be able to sell it on our website. Didn't sell. We're left with loads of stock, and we ended up selling it back to them for a discount on their ASOS outlet range. So because ASOS have an outlet section on their website where they've stopped doing it now. They used to buy products straight away at a discount to go on their website straight away as a discount.
Oh, got it.
So we got absolutely screwed there, basically.
So you decided that, okay, after this bad experience, I'd much rather just have control of
have total
everything.
control. And then the year before, in 2019, we stopped working with Footasylum, actually, because what Footasylum do is they bring on independent brands, sell it in their store, see how it performs, and they go and then create
copy them.
copycat brands because they get the full margin.
So crazy.
So we ended up having this issue where my brand was being merchandised next to their copy brand in store, and basically people couldn't distinguish the difference of the brands. Like, had the same font. Their first collection they launched was exactly the same as ours.
Can you do that? Do them for like copyright or something like that?
I spoke to like a trademark lawyer, and they said basically with fashion, because it's always changing, it's really difficult to actually establish kind of someone copying you.
Wow.
So and particularly as well with fashion, it's only you might only have it in stock for 12 weeks, and then you move on to the next thing. So by the time you kind of go through that, you can't really get your money back or get people to stop or get any conversation. So it's a really tricky area. And also at the time, I still really couldn't really afford legal fees to do it in 2019.
So then we just went into COVID, right?
Yeah. So then we went into COVID, had the experience of Footasylum, had ASOS cancel an order, and I thought, I can't leave my destiny into anyone else's hands apart from myself. So I was like, I just need to go all into paid advertising. So, I did it a bit before. We were doing paid ads through an agency.
So when you say paid ads, I guess for the audience, you're talking Instagram, Facebook ads, Google cost per click.
So at the time I was only doing Instagram, Facebook, and then was doing a tiny bit on Google. I've had previous experiences where we were always doing paid social, like Instagram and Facebook. I had an agency that were running it, but I always felt like they weren't doing a great job, and it's costing a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
I had similar experiences.
Yeah, so you can kind of get burnt with agencies, particularly as you normally get the founder who is really good, and then as they grow their business, you get kind of the
juniors,
team,
that don't know.
You don't know shit.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of money and trust in them with a lot of money as well. With budgets, so there was times when they kind of blew through budget, and then when it doesn't work, it's not their responsibility. So I thought, I'm going to use COVID to my advantage and spend every single day like learning paid ads myself. So I was watching every single YouTuber who kind of talked about paid ads and kind of just kind of built things up myself. So at that point as well, in 2020, our website was quite stagnant. I think we own our online website in 2019 only done about 350 grand. And then in 2020, we done, I think, $1.5 million.
Wow.
But predominantly all of that came from the paid social and understanding ads. And then I think it went from...
So you've gone from 300 to 1.5.
Yeah.
And you attribute mainly that to
all of it was
paid.
Yeah.
So roughly, how much did you have to pay per month on paid
I spent
social marketing?
So at that time, I spent about 25% of all our revenue on advertising.
Okay.
We just saw massive growth, and that's where the US came. The growth in 2020 came from the US as well. Advertising.
So roughly like 25% would be how much?
So at the time, if I'd done $1.5 million, so let's say on a on a 200 grand month, it would do like 50 grand in advertising.
50 grand a month you were spending on like paid ads.
Yeah, and that's in 2020. But then
you have to think about that, James.
Yeah, but still at that point, even in 2020, I didn't have I think only in the back end of that year I moved into an office. Before then I was still working from my parents' house. I used a third party logistics company to do all the kind of dispatching orders. Yeah. And it was just myself. So I was doing all the design, all the marketing. I was running every aspect of the business. So,
and that's up until 2020, you said?
Up until 2020.
So in the last 4 years, how many members of staff do you have now?
We're still quite small. I think we're about 17 at the minute. Okay. I think the good thing is with e-commerce is you can keep it quite tight, because you only need to design a t-shirt once, whether you order 100 units or 10,000 units. So yeah, we're definitely stretched. We need more staff, but we've managed to scale because we've got a partner who does our warehousing. It's like we can kind of go as big as we want, really. We've got a really good paid head of performance who does all our paid now in-house, and he does a great job.
Are you still spending the same kind of money as before, or is it gone up?
Yeah, so our target now is 20%, because obviously as other costs come into the business, we can't afford to go to 25%. Some months, if we didn't have a great month, maybe sometimes we could spend 30% of our revenue on advertising. But now that wouldn't really be kind of affordable with that extra overheads. The marketing budget in terms of the actual creative we're doing is a lot more bigger now, the type of shoots we're doing. But yeah, so we spent about 25% back in 2020 on advertising, and then just kind of grew. Then the next year, I think we've done 5 million the next year. So again, it was massive growth, and then now it started to slow off a bit. So
how did the business itself handle that rate of growth? I mean, with the operational side, so you were saying you would approach these factories in Bangladesh and see if you can contract out work. But surely you then had to try and find bigger factories and bigger warehouses. Yeah,
it was a challenge. So, and in some ways, it kind of worked to my favour towards the start. So, after the first couple of years doing Bangladesh and things like that with the first brand, I then moved to find factories in China and Turkey who had better quality. So, for example, Turkey good at doing jersey products, knitwear. China are all good at like woven products, all the different accessories and things like that. Wow. So I had those factories already that I just started to work with on the back end of the last brand. So the first collection I had in 2018, all the factories were a lot better. Even like there's like certification and stuff like that where they've kind of, they
anti-slavery and stuff,
and all that kind of stuff. So they were a lot better factories. But the problem was going from ordering like, even with one of those factories ordering like 200 units to then ordering like maybe 2,000. Particularly in the kind of 2019-20 period when we're still working with the likes of Footasylum, because Footasylum used to order massive quantities but just only order like 8 styles. And our factory struggled at times to get to that point. But when I started to see big growth online, the first person I brought into my business was a merchandiser. So their job was to forecast stock, because what would happen is I wasn't forecasting stock and all of a sudden we'd sell out. So then we'd have a few days or a few weeks of really low stock levels and sales dipping, and then we'd restock, and then we'd have a huge spike in sales.
I mean, let's say Footasylum come in and they put an order. How long would you need to try and produce all that stock?
So I managed to do it in 8 weeks, but I used to fly everything in, and again, that's another reason why margins originally were quite tight, because I was kind of saying yes. If someone said if Footasylum or ASOS said we need your stock in 2 months, I'd make it happen, but you'd be paying premium for everything across the board.
But did you find the more business you're putting their way, it was easier to negotiate, terms easier to negotiate?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's definitely got easier now with the amount of business we're doing across the board with factories now. A little bit better back then, but I think the problem was because the range wasn't as big, we still felt quite small to them. So, we might get a bit of a saving. I definitely think when I'd done the Footasylum order and all the units from that order, definitely was able to get like cost price reductions and things like that. But it's only been in the last couple of years when now I've got a merchandiser, a buyer, and we're like every order we're negotiating pricing. We've got like a production plan where, you know, we've got set dates. We need to order stock to come in like 6 months time, and everything, all the kind of timelines are a lot bigger. So it means that we've got time to actually negotiate pricing. Whereas back then, because I needed it in a rush, I'd be like just saying yes to anything. So we're negotiating pricing.
It's kind of the way that business works at that point. You just kind of say, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then you work out how you're going to make it work, isn't it, after?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was doing for a long time. But yeah, I started to build this kind of foundations. I knew that the stock was the biggest problem because we were always selling out. It worked back in 2020 because it created a bit of hype. So...
Oh, like it's out of stock.
Yeah.
Then suddenly build up a funnel of customers that are desperately waiting, and then as soon as you launch it, it all sells out.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember in 2021, I think there was a day where we restocked and we done like 65 grand from like 6 p.m. to midnight just from restock products.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
you mentioned Jamie Foxx a little while ago, and we've got a customer that was one of the founders of Trapstar, and he has a similar story where I think it was Rihanna and Jay-Z, right? Yeah. That they got snapped, and he's adamant, like, hey, listen, we did not pay them. We didn't send them anything. We didn't pay them anything. They just wore the damn thing, and then suddenly, bam, it just went nuts, right? That Trapstar's everywhere, right?
Yeah, funny, my cousin actually... last year was a senior designer at Trapstar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how well they've done, right?
Yeah, amazingly well.
Isn't it like, don't ask me how I know this, but Central C has it tattooed on his thing.
That's an interesting one. I asked him about that, and he's like, they haven't paid him anything. That's just
organic as well. That's
crazy,
amazing. He should ask for some shares in the company at least, right?
It goes to show, I think, branding and clothing is such an important thing in today's generation.
100%.
Especially in that culture.
Yeah. The whole urban culture.
Yeah.
Where something as small as a brand name will go into the likes of song lyrics, will go into people's tattoos, will go into designs that they'll put on wraps on cars, and it's just
like a lifestyle more than anything.
We need somebody to rap about GVE, right?
Yeah, I might come in tomorrow with a GVE tattoo on my forehead.
No, we don't need you to do it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, thanks. But so obviously they done that with those guys, and suddenly it's just blown up. Is that what happened with Jamie Foxx as well? Or?
Not really. With Jamie Foxx, it was good to have him as... You know, he wore our stuff. It's posted on the socials. It's like
did you supply him the stuff?
Yeah. So he basically what happened was I was on a women's wear shoot because we used to do women's. We've stopped doing women's now, but I was on the women's shoot. Jamie Foxx followed us. He was interacting with the Mauvais account.
That's so cool.
Yeah, left it for a couple of weeks, and then I then got a random message from him on Instagram on the Mauvais account saying like really love the stuff. Like, can you like send a few pieces to me? So we sent a couple of pieces to him. He put it on his Instagram story. Like he loved it. And then he got in contact. He was like, it was quite surreal because he was sending voice notes and stuff to me as well. And he was like, I'm in London because I'm filming a film, and can I have some stuff sent? But I need it today because I'm going to Paris tomorrow because it's my birthday. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get it to him? But I ended up getting it in an Uber to him that day. He then wore it the next day all over for his birthday. There's loads of videos of him wearing it. It was quite surreal because when he asked for the stuff, he like FaceTimed me on Instagram.
That's so cool.
So I ended up having a nice conversation with him and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
It was all unpaid. He got it.
All unpaid. Yeah. He just like the brand. So.
But there you go. I mean, actually, by the way, Jamie Foxx is one of my favorite actors, and he made an amazing song with T-Pain back in the day. I don't know if you know. Do you know what it is? Blame it. Anyway,
good song,
right? But we had a similar experience just the other day. I walk into the kitchen and George is like, you won't believe who's liked one of our posts.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Tom Holland.
That's so
shit, really?
cool.
Sick.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, sick.
It is a surreal moment. I'm thinking about it because I'm a massive fan of football, and then suddenly you start seeing these footballers who you'd look up to growing up, and all of a sudden, okay, yeah, you get them coming in to do business, but then having them watch your content and then ask you questions and interacting, that's sort of like a level up, and it's thinking, okay, that's pretty cool to think the reach is going that far that, okay, they're not just buying from you, but they're actually asking for advice and they want to have a conversation. So social media is such a powerful thing.
George's got an aim of having literally every single player from the Premier League following him.
That's the aim. Well, not to follow, but at least to do some form of business with them at some point. Yeah.
Can you get Liverpool at least, like Mo Salah or something? Please.
Yeah, he's leaving the country, by the way. So
no, he's not. Leave it out. So now let's see what's been happening at GVE last week. We had a touching story about a RS Cosworth restoration project that we've done for a lovely family, and had some amazing cars come through the doors as well.
So behind me we have the Sierra RS Cosworth, and it has a lot of history. So you look at the vehicle, you can see it's got moss growing over it and it's in a sorry state. Now there's a story. The owner of this vehicle passed away, and the vehicle was his project. He loved it. It was everything for him. And what happened is the guy passed away and his boss has bought the vehicle now. And what they want to do is, for his funeral, they want the vehicle to look spick and span. So it's a ride in the body shop. Now, apart from looking all cool and being retro and old school, it has a few tricks up his sleeve. So I'm gonna show you the engine bay, follow me. So he started off, he's replaced all the radiator hoses, intake pipe, boost pipe, everything with silicone hoses from Samco. So what this does is, on the intake, it gives you more air for more performance. That's the intake pipe. So that is an upgrade. It's much bigger, lets more air into there. This is the turbo. This makes the whoosh, 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 and it gives you the power. Injectors are down here. You got HT leads that are upgraded. Look, Burton power lead, performance silicone HT leads. So these give a better spark, which means more air, more power, more fuel. He's got a catch can up there. That is for the engine to breathe better. He's got adjustable cam gears. We've got the billet reservoir, the billet power steering reservoir, strap brace, and then under the vehicle we have the big exhaust system on it. And what this does is, altogether, it makes a package that makes this car a handful. So these cars are notorious for being difficult to drive and being rowdy and loud, flames out the back, pops and bangs, all of that. So this guy has lived to the true epitome of Ford Sierra RS. It has a lot of suspension stuff. You see the strap brace here. That is for handling. It gives more stability, it has upgraded suspension, better tires, better wheels. The vehicle's lowered, it handles much better. And what the owner has done was, it was a 4x4, so 4-wheel drive. He's taken out the front drive shafts to make it rear-wheel drive. But what this does is, it makes an already rowdy car even more rowdy and more fun to drive. It's got the manual in there, bang in the gears, and I think it will be an excellent car. What is the mirrors here for, and why is all this stuff silver? Because this car was a show car. So he's put all these upgraded billet parts and they were all polished and shiny. That was before the customer got into hard times and he parked the car up. So the rocker cover here, this is normally painted. This has been polished. It's got a new power steering reservoir, that's polished. This is an upgraded aftermarket part. You can see right here. That's the brand. You got Bailey Performance coolant reservoir. Even the strut tower caps, everything was polished. It is now looking sorry for itself, but we're gonna sort that out. The mirrors are there as an effect, so when it pulls up to the show and everything's blinging and the sun's shining, the mirror's there, so you can look at the mirror and not burn your retinas. Hello guys, good morning. So we're back on the Cosworth today and we're on the final stages of the build. So we've painted the car, we've had the wing welded back on, we've done the MOT, the car's had a nice wash, a decontamination wash, and now the boys are finishing it up. It's currently, what time is it? It's 12 o'clock. We've got 4 hours till the customer's coming in and the boys still need to do a full detail on it, detail the interior, prepare it, tires shine, the lot. Cosworth is reborn again, is ready. So behind me now is waiting for the customer to arrive, but listen to the purr of the engine.
Wow. Guys, I'm gonna turn the light on.
Right guys, welcome to GVE Unity and more specifically, welcome to our state-of-the-art PPF department. Now today we've got something very exciting and very special for you, straight out of Maranello, Italy, the brand new Ferrari Purosangue. This stunning example is presented in Celeste metallic paint. It's an extra range color over chocolate leather and Alcantara interior, and then most importantly, the carbon fiber exterior pack. That finishes off the car beautifully. Customers picked up his brand new Purosangue, driven it straight to us from the dealership for a full stage 1 paint correction detail and gloss PPF. Naturally, being the first Purosangue we've had here at GVE, we're going to come across some difficulties, and the major one of this particular car is how big this bonnet is. We have our PPF manager here, Nico, who's going to talk us through the process and how we're going to tackle this huge bonnet.
Normally this bonnet should be done in 3 pieces, but we are going to finish in 1 piece to make it look nicer.
Apart from obviously the huge bonnet, what other difficulties do we have with the Purosangue? The first thing I could notice straight away are these carbon arches. Are these difficult to do?
It is going to be difficult to do it, not to make any marks on it, because when you do a carbon, you have to be more careful not to make any marks on it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can see the front bumper, look at the shape of the front bumper, the carbon piece is going to be quite hard, not to make any mark here. So yeah, most of the car is hard. When you come back of the car, you can see the diffuser. It's also carbon, so when it's a carbon, you have to be super careful when you do it, not to make marks. If you can see the shape of the diffuser, it's quite hard to give a good finish.
Nico, another thing I've noticed when other cars get PPF'd is a lot of the times around the badges, you'll see a cutout of the PPF. What are we going to do differently with this particular car?
So when we have a badges like that, to give an edgeless finish, we have a specialized team to strip the car. So they're going to come over here and they will strip the badges very carefully, and then we're going to finish the panel, and they come back and they put it back.
And the badges go back on top of the PPF. Nice. Talking about the bonnet, you mentioned that we're going to do it in 1 piece. So why does the PPF company actually tell us to do it in 3 different pieces?
So anything to make it easier, you have to make in a separate pieces. So if you can finish in a 1 piece, it's going to look better, but it's going to be harder. And the second thing, to do this bonnet in a 1 piece, you have to have a 72-inch film as well.
Is that not normal for companies to have those films?
And you're not always going to get 72-inch bonnets, so that's why you have to spend more money to get the film. Then you can do a 72-inch bonnet.
And obviously the end result is you have a jointless bonnet and it looks like there's no PPF on it at all.
PPF on it, yeah. That's
nice.
The main reason to do it in 1 piece.
You've heard it here first. guys, we're back here at Unity. It's been 4 days since I've seen the Purosangue, and as you can tell from the video, they've wrapped the bonnet in one piece. The car is now fully protected with paint protection film. Let's catch up with Nico and see how he got on with it. Nico, the car looks amazing. You guys have clearly finished it, done a really good job. What was the hardest bit of getting this car done?
On this car, if you can see, I think the bonnet was the hardest piece.
Because it's
on
so
this
big,
car.
right?
It's so big and it's new for us. And XPEL have a 3-piece of bonnet. So they even asked us to try to do it in one piece. It's going to be hard, but we managed to do it. It looks very nice.
So despite XPEL telling you to do it in 3 pieces, you done it in one piece?
3 pieces, is, as I told you before, and when you have more pieces, they make it easier for you to install. So we try doing 1 piece, so we don't see any line. As you see the bonnet now, you won't see any more lines on the bonnet. It's 1-piece bonnet. And if you see the bumper as well, like it's new bumper.
So many different angles.
So many different angles. Yeah, so our team tried to manage to do it nicely. We take some extra time to finish it.
How long does a normal car take to PPF?
So old team, we tried to finish in 3 days, but this one took us 4 days to finish it.
So it's an extra day?
Extra day.
Just because of all the...
Because all new design, new shape. But
I can see if we walk around there, I can see you've got loads of little masking tapes. What's that about?
This is for like you extra.
So final checks?
Yes, final checks. If I come very close, even I can't find anything, but still, I would say.
So these are, you've marked them up for imperfections?
Yeah, just to check at the last, can we fix something? Can we not fix it?
Okay.
But at the moment, the car looking perfect.
Yeah,
There's nothing to do.
It's
just like extra careful.
Nico, thank you very much, man. Good job. Well done.
Thank you.
And there you have it, guys. It's our first Purosangue, and I'm sure after this video especially, it's not going to be our last. Despite what the manufacturers are saying, we managed to do the bonnet in one piece. The client's on his way down now. He's a couple of hours away. We need to do our final checks, final clean. We'll be able to deliver it to him. I'm looking forward to it, and let's get on to the next challenge.
Okay, Ferrari Purosangue. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Ferrari Purosangue.
Yeah, okay. How's it doing as a car? Like, is it are the prices still as crazy as they were before? Is it starting to come down? Are more being released onto the market? What's going on?
So we touched on this, I think, a couple of podcasts ago. And back then we had demand of customers paying up to £600,000, bearing in mind.
And so what the list would have been?
Depends on the spec. I mean, they start from something as small as 370, and then they can go up to 480. I've even seen the spec too.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the Atelier spec on Purosangues are crazy. You can do like custom stitch on the interior. You can go custom carbon, tinted carbon. You can put a whole load of carbon on the exterior.
So if you take an average of that, you'd probably say around 420. And
about 400, yeah.
400 to 420, meaning that 600.
So nearly 200 grand
200
over
grand
list.
over.
Back then.
Which was when?
So
6 months ago?
December.
Yeah.
December would have been the first batch of them coming out in the UK.
So there was 600 back then. What's happened since then?
I think it's come to a sort of level where they've become static now, because they're still quite hard to get a hold of. I mean, we did one recently, and that was about the best part of £100,000 over list.
100 grand.
And at the moment, I think people still stretch to that, because you have a look on the open market, and I think everyone has taken that threat from Ferrari, saying making you have to sign this contract and you can't sell the car. They're taking that very seriously. You won't find a single actual picture of a car on Auto Trader or Piston Heads. You'll only find catalogue pictures. Even when people are offering these cars around, when we took our one, we had to sign a contract, making sure no one will find out about it, which is why, yeah, it's a car we would love to shout about, but we just had to keep it well under covers.
But doesn't that then demand more of a premium when the manufacturer is so strict about this sort of thing? It's just
100%. I mean,
premium, right?
if you think about it, had it been so easy for everyone just to market these cars and put it up, that's when you start getting competitive prices online. One person puts Purosangue up, and then 2 weeks down the line, someone else puts it 10 grand cheaper. Then that person will drop the price. So now the market's not public for these cars anymore. You have to call up a dealer and say, I'm looking for a car.
All
and see
off
what's
market,
yeah,
right?
It's completely off market, which is why they're holding their prices.
It's crazy. £200,000 premium for a car that looks like a Mazda. No?
It's a Ferrari at the end of the day. I think it's this whole hype of having the latest thing. So I think the crazy thing is that this car is designed to be a daily. Who spends £500,000 on a daily?
But this will be interesting, Jordan, because obviously you've just bought a lovely SUV, and you spent an awful lot of money on it. What do you think of the Ferrari Purosangue? And do you see it worth spending that extra money to get one of them rather than what you've got?
Personally, no. I think it's got a similar vibe to the Urus, to be honest. Like, it doesn't look that great. Like you said, it could be a Tesla, it could be anything. Like
Even with the suicide doors.
So I've not
Yeah,
looked
but you're
into
not
that.
driving with the suicide doors open. Are
If I had that, I'd be driving through with the doors open.
That's going to be the new thing. That's going to be the new thing.
Look at me,
On
baby.
rap videos, they're going to have the doors open, driving around.
Jump out of the driver's seat and come out the back just to show it opens the other.
Do you want? Let's just get a Mazda in, and you can drive with the doors open with that as well. Same bloody thing.
I'm in the same boat, to be honest with you, and people might hate me for this. I think the Urus has got definitely more road presence.
You think so?
I think so. And the G-Wagon, to be fair.
Yeah.
I feel like if you want to spend loads of money on a car, you want someone who doesn't know anything about a car to know what you're driving.
Exactly, yeah.
And to be like, that looks sick. Whereas,
You don't want people saying it looks like a Mazda.
yeah. So like the normal person might look at it and be like, I don't know the difference between that Ferrari and a standard car, your granddad might drive.
I'll put a public bet down right now. I think you guys will change your mind in a year's time.
Jordan's going to have one next year.
Yeah.
100%. I guarantee you're going to change your mind in a year's time, because the exact same thing was said when McLaren released the 720S. And everyone was like, oh, it's the most disgusting car.
720S looked amazing, even when it came out.
No, I'm sure you said that. That's
yeah,
why you said, I'm not sure about the looks of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, nobody was really sure about the looks, but it still looked like a proper supercar.
But I think it's not more about the looks. I think it's more in the price.
Money versus
It's
the
a lot
looks.
of money.
So imagine
It's a
for
lot
the
of
same
money,
car.
George,
so
man.
for the same car, right? So £500,000 now you're paying on the resale market. You could get a G-Wagon plus a 720 plus I don't know, like a luxury kind of Bentley flying spur. So now you've got a nice garage, a 3-car garage that is just perfect for the same kind of money for one car.
But Ferrari is a Ferrari. And to go and support that statement, the GTC 4 Lusos came out and they were going for the best part of £300,000, 270, 280 list.
Okay, so look at where they
They've
are
come
now. So
down.
what's going to happen?
Yes, the Purosangues will come down, but it's
Yeah.
not going to make it an unpopular car. It will be
Do you know? I
very
think,
popular.
Yeah, I think that they are going to come down straight after this podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, once this gets released, no?
Yeah, I mean, we'll give list price to anyone looking to sell one. So.
Yeah, by the way, if you've got a Purosangue, we still want to sell it. We still believe in the car. We think that's amazing.
And we'll do it off market, don't worry.
Okay, so what's next for Mauvais?
Yeah, we obviously want to continue growing. We're just about to launch a new website in 2 weeks. So at the minute, we sell everything off one website. We're going to have 3 localized stores. So we want to grow into the EU, which we've not even touched yet.
3 stores where?
So we'll have a UK store.
Yeah.
We'll have a US store, which will be localized specifically for the US.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a rest of world store.
So you're talking about web store.
web
Oh,
stores.
web store.
But
Sorry,
have you got any
yeah.
plans of going physically into like bricks and mortar?
So the plan is to do a pop-up store in London.
Where would you do it?
I've looked around Central. I'd probably be not too far off, kind of like Oxford Street,
Oxford Street, yeah.
Covent Garden, that kind of area, just where there's a lot of footfall. We want to create an offline experience for our customers. If it's for a week, 2 weeks, if that goes well, you never know what can happen. I think a lot of brands now that have started from online are moving into offline spaces, kind of taking the spaces of kind of the traditional companies like the top shops that were doing well. So I think it's a new era for brands. So yeah, I want to start with pop-up. Obviously we're big in America, so maybe LA or somewhere like that. And more than anything, it's great social content if we get all our customers there and to create a bit of hype. They can actually feel the product.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm sure your product's really good quality compared to other stuff that's out there for the similar price. So it is important to let customers, I guess, feel and try your clothes on for a fit. Because it's always hard, especially for me, if I'm ever looking for clothes online, I always think, is that what size I'll go for, an extra large or a large or.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
always good to
You know what's
have that.
interesting on the back of what Anthony just said? How do you handle the whole return situation? Because everything's online based. Do you find that you get a lot of messes, people who would buy it and wear it and return it the next day?
Yeah, I think we have a returns portal where we're partnered with a company where they can register it online and they can drop it off. But we found, as we only worked for them for just over a year, and our returns definitely went up massively since we introduced that. Before that, you'd have to kind of write a hand note or tick the boxes and then send it back, and you tend to get less returns. So the ease of returning has meant that at the minute we're sitting about 15% of our demand comes back from
But
returns.
surely you wouldn't want that. You'd probably want to revert back to the old way.
We do, but we also want to create a seamless experience. The idea is if someone has an easy returns experience, they'll order 2, 3, 4, 5 more times.
I guess it creates trust in a brand.
Yeah,
as well,
trust. But we charge for shipping and returns. So, you know, we're not like the other brands where, you know, ASOS taught everyone that you can buy as much as you want and return as much as you want, and it just costs brands a fortune. So we charge customers and pass on the cost to them. So at least then people have been selective of what they're ordering. They're not buying 6 of the same product in different sizes.
Yeah.
So,
and this company who then assess all the products who come back, they inspect the products themselves, or would be one of your team?
it'll be inspected back at the warehouse with our third party logistics company. So
that's a thing, right? Sorry to interrupt, but I come home sometimes and my fiance's got like 20 bags worth of ASOS stuff, and I look at her and I think, what is going on here? And she goes, oh, don't worry, I'm only going to keep 1 or 2 things. She just literally, because it's so easy to return stuff, she'll try everything on and then send 90% of the stuff back.
Yeah, and you'll even get people who...
And they've got that peace of mind knowing that they're going to get that money back within a couple of days. So to them, it don't matter.
Exactly, especially if they do buy now, pay later as well. So they've tried it on, not paid for it, and return it, and it's just so easy for the customer.
Yeah.
You even get customers who wear the product as well, and then they try and return it. You know, we've had times where we've had someone leave their driving license in one of our trousers.
Wow. Oh, no way.
Money.
So they definitely like try it on, go out in it.
They probably go out in it and leave like the labels in and stuff like that.
Have like sick all down your shirts.
So it definitely happens.
Sounds like you've tried it, mate.
From experience.
Definitely from experience.
All the
You
time.
need to look out for his name on your website. Okay, so we're on to our quick fire round. What's one thing that you couldn't live without?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Do you know what that implies? That you got a magnesium deficiency? So
Really?
I learned this. Yeah, I used to eat a bar of chocolate, that big green and blacks, every single day.
I've got a huge magnesium deficiency then.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I think I've just got a sweet tooth.
There you go. Start taking some magnesium and see if it. Oh, and raw honey.
Nice.
Raw honey stopped me from eating chocolate.
Cool.
What is one bizarre talent that you have that people don't know about you?
Probably becoming a millionaire on RuneScape at the age of like 11. That was a talent.
Becoming a
RuneScape. It was like an online game.
Okay.
RuneScape.
So online game,
Yeah.
and you became a
in the game, like a
in the
millionaire. I was
game
buying
a
and selling in the
millionaire.
game.
Okay,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
that's quite cool. What's your favorite book?
I really liked the Jamal Edwards had a book. I can't remember the name of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's about this SBTV story.
Yeah.
I like that book.
Oh wow, I'm gonna read that. Most valuable piece of advice that you've ever received?
Build for the future. Things don't last forever, so just be sensible with your lifestyle and what you're doing.
Favorite way to unwind after work?
To be honest, I'm really sad and I drive around my car a little bit on my own.
We've had somebody else say that same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
married.
I don't think
from-
that's sad.
Yeah.
That's it's a nice way to try and disconnect from reality.
Yeah, I like
You're
putting
just
some
focusing
music
on the
in.
drive.
Put music in, drive around, enjoy it.
What's the most challenging decision that you've ever had to make in business?
Getting rid of people. I got rid of my ex-girlfriend worked for me. I had to get rid of her. Other people.
Was that
must have felt
when
so
she
good.
was an ex, or
She was an ex at the time. She stayed in the business for a few years. But it's all, even though she was an ex, it's you feel guilty.
yeah?
Probably getting rid of a friend
Okay.
in business as well.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Yeah, although getting rid of people is difficult. So any of those I find challenging.
Fine. What's been your proudest achievement?
I paid off my mum's mortgage.
And finally, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Understand numbers. So make sure that you've got a bookkeeper. You know exactly what's coming in and out on a monthly basis. Start small. So some of the people that I was looking at back in when I was 18, they were doing much bigger things, but it might have been for a different reason. So they might have been spending money on building their brand, not actually generating sales. So just understand where you are at a certain point, and grow slowly. Keep your costs down.
That was a great podcast. Amazing story. Well done, and congratulations on everything that you've done so far. And thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
If you like that episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And also make sure that you hit that notification button. Until next time, see you later.